Good morning, everybody. You know, I love it when I'm sitting there and just before I'm about to get up, I suddenly feel my heart racing because Gus brought that word and it fits in with what I want to share today. And you just get that feeling that God is in the house and God wants to speak to us. And it's still racing now. And today we're looking at love of money is meaningless, but words are meaningful. And as Marcus said, my brain's gone. This month we're looking at the book of Ecclesiastes, and you look at it first of all, don't you? And you think meaningless, meaningless, meaningless. Is it the book of doom? Gracious me. But actually, we've just sung about build my life and trust in you. And actually, that is what the book of Ecclesiastes is all about. Building our life on the firm foundation of God. And if we live how this book that was written thousands of years ago says, we would live lives differently. What is important to God? How does he want us to live? So today we're going to look at chapter 5. But I've noticed something. Whenever I seem to be standing up on this platform, my life has just had something either just recently or ongoing exactly the same as what I'm speaking about. I'm just praying that next time it's about a mountaintop experience and not about anything hard. But we do learn most, I do believe, when we go through tough experiences, when things are not all as we would really want, but when we really have to rely on God a little bit more. So what's this chapter about? Money. But it's not about money, it's about love of money. And I think that's important before we even read this, to just think a moment. God isn't saying that we don't need money. He's not saying that we can live without it. We live in a world that relies on money. We need money to buy food. We need money to buy clothes. We need money for our houses. We do need money. It's not about that, but it's about how we view it. How we see the money in our pocket, the money in our banks. And I was thinking about the song from Cabaret, Money, Money, Money. No, I'm not a singer, so I'm not going to try and sing it. But I was reading the lyrics, and what was interesting, there was a couple of sentences that I'd never noticed before. Obviously, I knew it says money, 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 money makes the world go round. But it says here, if you're rich and alone. So if you're rich and alone. And then it says, money makes love fly out the door. Even a song in a musical is highlighting the negative aspects of money. So we're going to read from chapter 5 from verse 10 in the NLT version. It says, those who love money will never have enough. How meaningless to think that wealth brings true happiness. The more you have, the more people come to help you spend it. So what good is wealth, except perhaps to watch it slip through your fingers? People who work hard sleep well, whether they eat little or much, but the rich seldom get a good night's sleep. There is another serious problem I've seen under the sun. Hoarding riches harms the saver. Money is put into risky investments that turn sour, and everything is lost. In the end, there is nothing left to pass on to one's children. We all come to the end of our lives as naked and empty-handed as on the day we were born. We can't take our riches with us. And this too is a very serious problem. People leave this world no better off than when they came. All their work is for nothing, like working for the wind. Throughout their lives, they live under a cloud, frustrated, discouraged, and angry. Even so, I've noticed one thing at least that is good. It is good for people to eat, drink, and enjoy their work under the sun during the short life God has given them, and to accept their lot in life. And it is a good thing to receive wealth from God and the good health to enjoy it. to enjoy your work and accept your lot in life. This is indeed a gift from God. God keeps such people so busy enjoying life, they take no time to brood over the past. So that's the end of my sermon then. Because you see, Solomon was the wisest person who ever lived. And that kind of just sums it all up really, doesn't it? And I think maybe it's a chapter that we could choose to read this week, more than just here today, but a couple of times. Because money does make a huge impact on our lives. In 1 Timothy it says, in chapter 6 verse 10, "For the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil." It's not the money that's evil, it's the love of it. When we desire more than we really need, when we hoard it for ourselves, but actually we've got plenty to share with other people. When we see it as a way to bring happiness in our lives. And just recently I ran the risk of losing a huge sum of money. Well, for me, it was a huge sum of money. The potential of my car being written off completely after a camper van conversion went horribly wrong. And somebody said to me, don't worry. Don't worry. The money doesn't mean anything. Forget about the cost. It doesn't matter. What's more important is your personal happiness about the situation, dealing with it correctly, your well-being and peace. Peace inside. And it really struck me because the person that said this would never have said this before they were a Christian. They would have been more focused on the money. The loss of thousands and thousands of pounds would have been more important. And I believe that God is always ready to work in each of us. He was ready to work in this person, and he's ready to work in each of us today. Because we need to allow God to change our minds. And Gus said, refocus. Clear that path of all the things that are in the way so we can live different lives where we rely on God more. Refocus. And I believe that is what God wants us to do today, to refocus our lives, to see our lives the way he wants them to be. So we can walk clear paths, not doing the wrong things and focusing on the wrong things in our lives, but things that will bring glory to him and joy in our lives. I really reflected on the words that were said, and it is so true, isn't it? Peace and well-being and being at peace in yourself is so much more important than worry and stress and everything. And yes, money can bring that. But when we know that God's in it, it really does help us. And at the very beginning of chapter 5, from the Message version, it says this: God's in charge. Not you, not me. And it says this: watch your step when you enter God's house. Enter to learn. God's in charge, not you. And they're such wise words. See, the words that are in the Bible are meaningful. They can help us in our lives. And I've been really reflecting on that, on my situation the last few weeks. And I was starting to take it in my own hands. I was wondering how I was going to deal with it. What would the outcome be? And all it was meaning for me was I wasn't sleeping at night. And other people around me were starting to worry more as well. And God really spoke to me and said, look, I'm here. I'm in charge. It will be okay. And I trusted him. And that's what he wants us to do. He wants to speak into our lives and for us to really focus on the things that are important. And in the NLT version, those verses read a little bit differently, a little bit harsh maybe. They say, keep your ears open and your mouth shut. It sounds a bit rude, doesn't it? So when we enter the house of God, when we enter church, ears open and mouth shut. But what does that mean? If we're listening but we're not speaking, it means we have the opportunity to hear more from God. If all the time we choose to speak and speak and speak, how can we hear God? God wants to speak into our lives. I prefer the Message version. Enter to learn. Enter to learn. Enter to hear from God. Because God is here today and God wants us to know He's here to help us. I don't believe wealth from God is just about being financially rich. That's not what it's, when it says in those verses about receiving wealth from God, it's not about how rich we can be. It's about heavenly wealth, the appropriate amount of wealth for each one of us to live our lives, to enjoy our lives, the short time we have on earth, and to be blessed with them, living in contentment, not always wanting more, and trusting that God will provide. I was reading about this guy called Duncan, 27 years old. 27, and he was a multi-millionaire. He had so much money, he didn't know what to do with it. So he'd worked for it. In fact, he'd worked very, very hard. He wasn't rich when he was younger, but he said his life changed. He could do anything at all he wanted. Any luxury in the world he could ask for. And people came to him in their plenty. Every morning people came to see him. That sounds great, doesn't it? Apart from the fact they didn't come to see him for him. They came because they wanted money, or they wanted to be a friend so he could take them on posh boat trips or whatever. They weren't the same friends they were before. Friendships completely changed. People were only interested in what he could provide for them. Genuine, deep, intimate relationships were finished. People rated him, how he looked, how he acted, just on money alone, rather than the fact that he was a precious human being, a child of God. So he decided that luxuries were just so overrated. He didn't really want them anymore because they'd ruined his life. And being wealthy had become his full-time occupation. There was no time for any of the free blessings that we get. A walk in the park, a meeting with friends. That had gone. It was just about earning money, 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 money. And in the book he says this: I was the richest I'd ever been, but money didn't make me happy. In fact, it made my life worse. There would always be someone richer than me, and I had to learn how again to value myself, not for my finances, but for me. How much money did I truly need to live a life where I felt valued and loved, and to have an intrinsic value just of my own? He said money is an addiction, and the love of money has the potential to completely control our lives. And this was the man who had as much money as he could have ever wanted or dreamt of. And I'm sure there's some of you listening here, or maybe listening at home and think, well, yes, but hold on a minute. I'm struggling to buy the food. I'm struggling to clothe my children. I'm struggling to pay my rent. I'm struggling with my daily needs. I need more money to pay my bills or feed the family. And there's nothing wrong in that. There's nothing wrong in praying to God to help you. To help you, because that's a need. Pray, pray, pray. Ask people to pray for you. Ask people to pray with you. That isn't seeing money the wrong way, because we do need money to live. Seeing money as just bringing happiness and joy in our life, and that it can buy anything, is not the way to see money. And the words that really stood out to me that Duncan said were, being wealthy is a full-time occupation. Like, fancy that. Fancy living your lives and not having time for simple pleasures. Being devoted full-time to earning money. I had a simple pleasure this morning. I took my dog for a walk before I came here in Kersney Abbey, and all the swans were there and the cygnets, and it was a beautiful morning. A free pleasure. I fancy never being able to enjoy simple pleasures. A coffee with a friend, a chat. I don't think that sounds so appealing now. I don't know about you. I definitely don't want to be one of the richest people in the world. And throughout this book of Ecclesiastes, there's a phrase, and David spoke about it last week, chasing the wind. Chasing the wind. And maybe as the youth in here, you do spend time chasing and running in a physical sense. Maybe as adults we don't so much, but you get the picture. Chasing, running to catch something. And that picture in my head is of somebody running to just keep pursuing money. Our focus set on that and nothing else. And that's not what God wants for us today. And then there's another thought as well, isn't there? Can we catch the wind in our hand? We can't, because we can't even see it. We can feel it, but we're chasing for something we will never achieve because it's unattainable, because we can't grasp it. Chasing things is tiring. When we never stop, when we're always running, when do we stop to enjoy the things that God's blessed us with? We can't. Duncan said it became a full-time occupation. And I'm just imagining him chasing, but never stopping to enjoy the pleasures that God gives us. And Solomon talks a lot about having a short time on this earth in comparison to eternity. And during that time, God wants us to be doing meaningful things. Meaningful things. The love of money is meaningless. It doesn't provide joy or peace. It doesn't help us live lives closer to God. It doesn't help us to refocus like God wants us to. But in a world where money makes the world go round, as it says in the song, it's really easy to not focus on money. It's a worldly thing. But God is here today and he's saying, I'm here to help you refocus, to clear that path and to move forward in him. So what should we learn today from this book of Ecclesiastes? Enjoy life. Eat, work, and be grateful for the blessings that God's already put in our life. And rest in the knowledge that God is in charge. He knows the bigger picture. He wants to bless us because we are his children. He doesn't want us to be chasing the wrong things. And the words in the Bible are always meaningful. It's never a waste of time to read the Bible. They can help us to live our lives correctly. God doesn't want us to be chasing. He wants us to live for him in joy. And I don't believe either that God condemns us or thinks badly of us when we do it wrong. He knows this world is a difficult place to live in. He's always ready to say, hey, come here. I'm ready to help you. Ready to help you set a new focus. Rely on me. Feel deep spiritual blessings. To just be happy to live with what I've given you, rather than always searching for something new. And today, God says, are we content with our lot? Or do we need to shift our mindset? As the world got hold of us a little bit and pulling us to focus more on money than on what God has for us. And the great thing about this chapter, every other chapter, there's been nothing good. I don't know if you've noticed that. Everything's been meaningless. But in this chapter, guess what? Solomon's found something that's good. It's this. He says, I'm going to use the Message version. After looking at the way things are on this earth, here's what I've decided is the best way to live. Take care of yourself, have a good time, and make the most of whatever job you have, for as long as God gives you life. And that's about it. That's the human lot. Yes, we should make the most of what God gives, both the bounty and the capacity to enjoy it. accepting what's given and delighting in the work. It's God's gift. God deals out joy in the present, the now. And that means not chasing the wind, relentlessly trying to keep up, but be at peace, to enjoy our lives and be content with the blessings that God's given us on a daily basis. And when I was thinking about this book was written some 3,000 years ago. Isn't it amazing that the words are just still so relevant for today? Now, God's message is the same yesterday, today, and tomorrow. These were written before Jesus even set foot on this earth. So maybe this week we could choose to read those verses again. Read them in different versions, because sometimes different versions speak differently to your heart, even though what their meaning is the same. Living for now and enjoying every minute of all the blessings that God chooses to give us. Living our lives, as that song said, build my life and trust in you. Build our life on the firm foundation of God, knowing that He's there for us, He will provide for us, and He wants us to live a life of joy and peace, not focusing on worldly things. Maybe we could choose to read that again this week. Thank you.